Hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about Notify. So this is a pet project of mine that I've kind of always wanted. Um, so the whole idea behind Notify is I want an endpoint which I could call from anywhere. And once that endpoint was executed, I get a notification on my phone with a specific message. Seems simple, right? So the first thing that I could have done to make my life easier was to install a chat application, Slack or Host Mattermost or anything that is already built. Anything that so a chat application. Did I spell it right? I don't know. So a chat application that has the feature of incoming webhooks. So something that I could send an API request to, which would then send the message to me. But that would have been the easier way out. And I don't think I like myself because I did not want to make my life easier. So what did I decide? I decided to build my own application for it. So my application, Notify, was going to be two folds. So one was an Android app because I have an Android phone. This is just a simple app that has Google Sign On, and the only reason it has that is so that I could get FCM tokens. FCM stands for Firebase Cloud Messaging, and the idea is once I have the FCM token for this specific phone, I will be able to push notifications to it using Google's cloud platform. So, I'm going to need a web app which is Notify, that's going to take in API calls and then forward it to my phone using cloud messaging. Simple enough. Did not take a long time to build this and was done in a while. But I started coming across problems. So, problem one. This has to do with Android. I'm not sure if the same thing happens in iOS, but I have my phone. I have notification 1, 2, 3, 4. I clear them out and it's gone forever. So it's lost. It could be that I have a lot of notifications on my phone, and as I was swiping them, I just swiped the one that I need to listen to as well. Or I just cleared it and then it was gone. So, how do I remedy the situation? Simple enough, right? So, Notify now needs a database. Um, Notify was written in PHP. Actually, I've rewritten it in multiple languages. This has basically been a way for me to get introduced to a language at this point. But at this point, it was written in PHP. So for database, MySQL, because they go well together, and luckily for me, this was Dockerized. So for me to add the MySQL database, it was as simple as updating the Docker file. Made that happen. Now the workflow is a bit changed. We get an API call, which goes on to Notify, which goes on to the database, gets a response that it's saved, then it makes another call to Google Cloud. Actually, that's FCM, and FCM gets a response saying that it's done, and then I respond to the client. Works. I did have to modify the Android application. So the Android app now needed an API call to notify for notification logs. The schema was pretty simple actually. Notification logs. I want an ID. I want title. I want body. I want created at. That's about it. So how did I start using Notify? One of the use case why I wanted this to be fast was actually anytime I logged into one of my web servers, I wanted to be notified. So I modified the BassRC to execute a script which makes an API call to notify, which then sends a notification to my phone. Doing so, if anybody tries to log in using the shell or bash, I get notified. Do see a loophole there because it's not necessary that they might use bash. Not sure if this file is executed anytime you log in, but at least I thought so. Anyway, so the problem with this one was when I try to SSH onto my servers, now there's a lag, and it's really frustrating because it starts executing all the stuff inside BassRC, reaches to my script, uh, and then it takes about 2 to 3 seconds. But this was a bit frustrating, especially when you have to log in and log out multiple times. It's like it's a small thing, but it's really frustrating and gets on my nerve. So now I want Notify to be faster. The 2-3 second delay is not acceptable. So how can I break this down? So there are two places where I could optimize it, in the client side and on the server side. The client side was simple enough. The executable was a sh, which then executed a PHP script, which then made the API call. All I would need to do is when I run this sh file, instead of just going dot slash whatever dot sh, I just use no hop. That way this is no longer a blocking call, and client side is optimized. Simple. Should have made me happy, but it did not, because I know that this could be optimized as well. The 2-3 second delay is like does not make sense, could be optimized. So why let's start investigating into why the server is actually slow. So for that, let's understand how the client what the client is actually doing. So my script, when it gets executed, initially it needs to do a DNS resolution. Once it's done with that, it needs to make a TCP request to notify. once it reaches onto the Notify servers, Notify would then need to make a connection to the database, write the stuff that it received, send back a response saying all good. Then this thing would need to make another API call to Firebase Cloud Messaging, and then the response. This is a bit expensive, and while all of this happens, my script is actually blocking all of my stuff, so I cannot log into the server because all of this is happening. So how could I possibly optimize this? I'm sure the first thought that comes to your head is don't use PHP, which, yeah, makes sense, and use something that supports asynchronous stuff. But you don't necessarily need the language to be asynchronous to make your stuff behave in an asynchronous way. So for now, the biggest problem that I have is there's a huge waiting time between the request and the response. So in order to optimize that, let's make PHP asynchronous. So I chose the easy path out. So now Notify looks like this. Gets an API request, then it will push the message onto a rabbit queue, get a response saying it's okay, respond to the client saying it's okay. This made it really fast, because now instead of connecting to the database, instead of connecting to FCM, waiting for all of these to be completed, it directly drops that message onto Rabbit and then lets the client know that you're done because there's nothing more that I need from you. By doing so, I have taken the responsibility onto me, because once the client sends me a request, it's like, I've told you that I'm done. So the client no longer cares. To him, it's like, I asked you to send this message, send it. So the burden of actually making sure that it got sent falls onto us now. But no biggie there, because all we need is, now we want consumers. That was Now we want consumers who get stuff from Rabbit, save it to the database, call FCM. Actually, the order would be reversed, because I would not want it to save stuff that it did not send. Or maybe I would. I'm not sure. But sure. Send the FCM message, then save to DB. And once that happens, acknowledge the message so it gets removed from the queue, move on to the next one. Made it really fast, made sure that we could take a lot more requests and process it later on. Say I have a huge spike on app, it would still work, because also, if I wanted this to scale up, I could just add another consumer and another and another, and it should just continue working as long as the database could handle it. And I do not get rate limited by FCM. So that optimization worked. We made it faster. But like I mentioned before, the client was actually PHP, so that means anyone who wanted to use Notify needed to have PHP on their system, which is really unlikely. So the final optimization that I've done, oh, I wanted to add it after. So the final optimization that I wanted to do was for the client, and for the client optimization, I decided to rewrite the wrapper for the API call in Go, because now I can create executable binaries for Windows or Linux without having to think twice. Um, at the end of the day, this would of course need to be executed, but instead of having a script which then points to an PHP thing, we can just execute the main script. And it was as simple as that. Um, but yeah, I guess this is one of the examples where you have a simple problem and the use case just grows. I do see a few problems with this one. Um, as in, take this for example, I am getting spammed by one of my notification things. Say I'm trying to maintain the server, so I have to log in and log out multiple times. I don't want the notifier thing to run every time I SSH onto one of the servers. So I guess the next phase would be to have some sort of a third database, and not a database but a third table, which would deal with enabling and disabling certain topics. And just like that, the concept of topic comes in. This thing will definitely have a next version, but yeah, for now, this is it. Thanks for listening. Bye.